Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Steven Wilson album, Hand Cannot Erase. Steven Wilson, a UK-based multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, singer, producer, and frontman of the neo-progressive rock band Porcupine Tree, whose recent output has kind of slowed since 2009's The Incident, but filling that void of Porcupine Tree albums has been one Steven Wilson solo record after another, like Grace for Drowning and The Raven That Refused to Sing. And so far, Steven Wilson's more recent solo material hasn't really continued on the more modern end of the progressive rock spectrum. Rather, they have gone back a little bit. They are kind of studied rehashes of classic progressive rock tropes, and as detailed as they may be, they are a little passionless, or at least that's how I read them to be, just passionless reassemblies of ideas from the great works of King Crimson, Rush, Pink Floyd, topped with kind of passable, boyish, flimsy singing. So yeah, these latest Steven Wilson solo records, not really pushing the envelope in the way Porcupine Tree had, they just kind of feel like Steven doing what feels comfortable, coloring by the numbers in his favorite genre, which is something he's so desperate to do. He got the Mellotron that landed on those old school King Crimson recordings and put it on The Raven Refused to Sing. And when I originally reviewed this record, I assumed that this classic historical instrument's less than flattering appearance was really just because it was a mock instrument or some kind of really terrible synth patch. But it was actually the real deal. Steven Wilson has all the toys. He has everything that you would need, all the ingredients for a classic progressive rock record, but none of the thrills, none of the excitement, and none of the guts. True revivalists of a vintage style of music usually take a little bit more notice of the energy behind the music and the emotions behind it, and maybe just the recording style and the way the instruments sound. And not to say that Wilson is a terrible producer. His instruments definitely sound better on this new record here than they did on The Raven Refused to Sing. They are a little bit more lush, colorful, punchier, but still that oomph that I look for in a rock recording across all rock subgenres is really just not there. Instead of trying to attain that lightning in a bottle, Steven kind of just settles on compositional accuracy by a progressive rock standard, and it leads to a kind of sterile delivery. I don't see Steven on this new album, on his previous two albums, performing progressive rock as much as he is showcasing it. Here are sounds or riffs or chord progressions or instrumental accompaniment that I think is great in this genre. And Steven's love, his awe, his reverence for this style of music really keeps him from making a visceral recording with it, because he babies and delicately handles every riff, solo, every guitar interlude like he's handling Hallmark figurines or like a really extensive Beanie Baby collection. Perusing through Steven's progisms can be just as tedious as staring at all the little porcelain knickknacks in your grandmother's hutch. That's roughly how I feel about Steven's past two LPs. That's pretty much how I feel about this new LP. Though, again, I do give it to Steven that things sound better, they sound more lush, they sound more colorful on the production front, and I do think we are getting a little bit more stylistic and sonic variation on this new LP. Like with the peppy staccato acoustic guitar chords on 3 Years Older, really upbeat way to start the album. The way the next song rolls in with some pumping downstroke guitar chords feels like a little bit of pop rock. There's a very chilled spoken word piece on the song Perfect Life. The chugging and heavy riffs at the start of Home Invasion are actually pretty surprising and a nice explosive change of pace, but there's a really awkward funk groove on the end of the song that just does not sit right. Of course, there is a synth odyssey on the song Regret Number 9, and the jittery electronic beat and the whimsical strings on the song Ancestral almost kind of has a trip-hop vibe to it. There's a really explosive guitar solo on this track too, which actually adds up to one of the more fiery and dramatic moments on the entire record. And the song Happy Returns is a relatively grand finish, and lyrically actually pulls together and ties up very nicely a lot of the album's themes of history and memory and family, growing up, growing apart, and life. And there are themes of technology and urban living and modern life and isolation on this record as well, which Steven has explored before in other projects, but maybe not with the same exact kind of focus that Hand Cannot Erase provides. Once again, with Hand Cannot Erase, Steven proves he understands the art of the album from a technical standpoint. The album is coherent, it's thematic, it's conceptual, it's mixed well, it's not stylistically one-dimensional, but aesthetically and stylistically, the record is kind of drab and safe and bordering on unimaginative. You know, again, I appreciate and I acknowledge Steven Wilson's writing ability and his virtuosity on this album, and it's great that he has a crowd of passionate fans that want to hear him make the kind of music that he makes. But again, even with Steven's talents being so obvious and out there in the open, I'm really failing to connect with much of anything on this record in a meaningful or an emotional way. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this LP. Transition. If you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? I'm sure you probably enjoy it more than me. But that's cool. You're the best. What do you think I should review next? And I hope you're well. Anthony Fantano, Steven Wilson, forever.